Thank you to Mili Tharakan from the No Ordinary Cloth podcast for being with us here today for Tex 4.0 to talk about all things smart textiles.
Thank you so much, Lauren, for having me here.
So a lot of the followers of the Tex 4.0 project are really interested in this theme of smart textiles. I think it's new to a lot of people, and as someone who has really gotten to know, let's say, this topic, how would you define what is a smart textile for people that are not
Yeah.
familiar with the term?
So smart textiles, and here I'm talking about sort of electronic textiles, e-textiles, interactive textiles. These are all the different names that you hear around it. These are all fabrics that have both soft and also hard electronic components like sensors and actuators, maybe microprocessors integrated into them. And that can be through weaving, knitting, printing, embroidery. But basically, the electronics is sort of embedded in the textiles. And this enables the material, the fabric, to sense. So it can maybe collect data and turn something that's sort of analog, like a touch, into digital information. It can react at sometimes or adapt to its environment or interaction with a user. So it really goes beyond just technical functionalities of textiles, which can be like moisture wicking or UV protection. This is able to kind of do things like monitor your heart rate or your muscle oxygen levels, or see what the pressure is when someone touched a piece of fabric. It could transfer data across a piece of fabric. So there's all kinds of possibilities that you can play around with when you talk about smart textiles.
I think it's a topic that a lot of us envision as something kind of futuristic and maybe not realizing as much like where it might actually already be applied. Like, are there certain industries or uses where we're already seeing smart textiles like embedded into current life, let's say, not necessarily
Yeah.
so far off?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think the easiest one would be to talk about heated textiles. So that could be heated gloves, heated jackets, blankets, bed covers. This is becoming quite popular and very mainstream. But what we might not notice is that a lot of car seats, which are heated, are also integrating e-textiles or smart textiles into it, which you don't get to see with your eyes, but it's there behind.
Yeah, no, I never thought about that before. You're right, absolutely.
Yeah, and actually, the automotive industry is one of the areas where there has been some very interesting traction for smart textile solutions. Another area would be elite sports, sportswear. So it could be anything from socks to, sports bras, t-shirts, which for the main, I guess the application there is to kind of track biometrics of players, whether that's your heart rate or your breathing, and this helps the coach or the player to really understand how they can optimize their performance. So the more data they understand about their body, they can make sure that they don't push themselves too hard, that they injure themselves, and that's how a lot of information is being used. A very practical area that is being used is in defense. A lot of soldiers carry very heavy packs, and they have a lot of gadgets with wires that are connecting to the battery, a lot of cables that they walk around with. And flexible textile cables are replacing those really, the cord cables that we usually have. This is making it much lighter, much safer for the soldiers. It's flexible, it can fold, it's more compact. So that's making a huge difference in that space. Then you find things in also, interesting work in like entertainment and gaming industry. So there's the Tesla suit. This is not the car company, but this is a suit that you wear, which has got haptic feedback, but it also gives you biometric reading as well. And so if you're in a VR world and you have your headset on, you can kind of experience the world through sort of the feelings that you get from the shirt. So it produces haptic feedback. So, if you're hit by a bullet or whatever, you can kind of feel that a lot more strongly. And a more fun recent product that's coming out is called the Sound Shirt by Cute Circuit. And they've been again using haptic feedback to help hard of hearing people to experience sound in a concert or in a football stadium where everyone's chanting and singing and cheering and booing, and they can feel that in their body. So they're not just seeing the game,
Like
they're
translating
experiencing
sound
it
feeling.
exactly. And now they're using the same technology for concerts. So anyone, you and I, we can hear, but to really immerse ourselves in the music that we're listening to at a concert, you can wear these shirts, and they're making it available in various stadiums in the UK and around the world now.
Wow, really interesting. And I'm really curious about this idea too. I think in my own perceptions as well of smart textiles, I think of it as like maybe giving something to me, but this idea
Mm,
of them collecting data as well.
yeah,
Um,
absolutely. Yeah.
Interesting, and also how that plays into some other topics that we've talked about in Text 4.0, like data analysis and
Mm,
potentially also feeding into things like big data,
yeah.
um,
Mm,
which I know there are a lot of privacy concerns around, especially
yes.
about like health metrics and things like that. But
Yeah.
we also to gather information on populations, health statistics, and public
Yeah.
health, things like that.
But also, I think we always tend to, I guess we all naturally tend to think about clothing when we talk about textiles, but textiles is
Yeah,
so much bigger, right? It's
so
interiors, it's
true.
architecture, it's um, um, sales of yachts, it's everywhere. And so it could be surfaces that could be used to collect all kinds of data. So it's not just the body, but it's any surface that you want to collect data from. And if it's got textiles in it, we can potentially do that, which is what's really
So true.
exciting.
Yeah, so true. I too tend to go some always towards the clothing and textiles, let's say, association. So okay, it's obvious that there are already some applications happening today in daily life. What do you think are the trends of the future for smart textiles? Where is it heading from here?
Yeah. So, in terms of the development of smart textiles, I think there's a lot of activity in the material development. So, for example, looking at things like sustainability and biodegradability of e-textiles, it's a nightmare for the industry. We talk about textiles being a huge nightmare by itself, and then you add electronics onto it, and then recycling and end of
Because
life
these are things
becomes.
that are additionally embedded.
Exactly. Yeah. So how can we solve that? So lots of research going on in that space, and material development, like exciting material development that's going on. So there's a recent graduate from Central St. Martin's here in the UK had a project called Wool Tech, and her idea was to use wool in a really clever way and to kind of create a wool-based biomaterial that can become conductive when you treat it with laser. So the lasering actually makes the wool create conductive tracks,
Without
which
adding something.
yeah, without adding metallic traces, connectors onto it. And so that was, I think, a really interesting exploration. It's very, very, very early stages, but I feel like there's something there to go and dig deeper. Another one was, again, more recent research by a company called Zwittimer, and they're making conductive polymers. So without any metal or carbon, this is polymer like polyester yarns, but
Mhm.
that is conductive. And what's nice about this product is, yes, we don't want polyester everywhere, but you can recycle polyester and this still retains the conductive property of the yarn. So even if you integrate it into textiles, at end of life, you can separate the polyester from, the other textile, and that conductive polyester can be kind of recycled again to be a yarn which is conductive. So looking at the circularity of materials as well. So I think material innovation is a really big area for research, and also looking at end of life and things like repair, rental, new models that we need to be thinking about in smart textiles as well.
Exactly. Are there any specific, let's say, geographical areas that have a lot of activity going on with this, or any specific companies or things you would suggest for people maybe to follow along with or keep their eyes out on?
I mean, there is the e-textile network. I mean, it's open to all. I mean, it's a network focused on people working in e-textiles in Europe and UK mainly, but that's a really, really valuable resource. They actually have, I think, their conference is happening in France next week. But that's a great way for both researchers and industry to come together, and they share sort of, new knowledge that's being developed, but also product development, the challenges that companies are facing in scaling up some of these products is great as a prototype. But once you start scaling, there's a whole other sort of basket of challenges that come with it. So, how do we tackle that? What are the new opportunities? So and they have a lot of, they have a newsletter, which they, share a lot of information through. So I'd highly recommend the eTextile Network as one of those resources. I can maybe think about a couple more and probably send you some links for it.
Yeah, that would be great. I think maybe some of the project followers would be interested in following along with some of
Yeah.
these groups and activities. That would be amazing for them. And of course, anyone with a specific interest in smart textiles should definitely give a follow to Mili's podcast. Again, No Ordinary Cloth Podcast, which will get much more in depth with different topics about smart textiles. Do you have anything you want to share about your podcast channel for our listeners today?
Yeah, I guess I was always worked and been curious about that intersection between technology, emerging technology, textiles, sustainability, and craft. So although I spent 24 years in e-textiles, I've also been really fascinated by other new technologies that have come out, with biomaterials and AI, and how this is really shifting our world of textiles. I mean, textiles is going through such an incredible transformation right now. It's like the most exciting time to be doing textiles. And so, if you are in this space, but you might feel a bit nervous about learning electronics or learning biotech, or, these are not materials that we play around with in a textile school. But if you're interested, there's so much resource online, and just start playing around and just start experimenting, because it's early days, and this is when you can really start to kind of gather some momentum and experience under your belt in these emerging technologies, because these will transform our industry in the next 5 to 10 years. It will happen. So if you start experimenting now, you're already sort of getting ahead of that curve and helping make that transformation.
Definitely. Well, Mili, thank you so much for joining us today. Some really interesting insights. And I'm definitely interested to follow along and see what happens over the next couple of years too.
Yeah.
And be a part of this kind of textile revolution that's happening specifically also in Europe right now with a lot of
Absolutely. Yeah.
laws. It's a great time to get involved and to get working on different things.
Oh, thank you so much, Lauren. It was great to have a conversation, and always happy to connect with anyone who wants to dig deeper on this topic.
Awesome. And anyone who wants to follow along with the Tex 4.0 project with Mili's podcast and learn more about smart textiles, I am adding links here in the post to follow along. So thank you.
Thank you.